What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Azariah podcast. My name is Pedro, your host and producer. This show is all about stories, real people, and honest conversations coming to you from the Wolves Media Studio. Today, we're sitting down with Russ Reimer, firefighter, paramedic, and a community leader from Steinbach. 25 years of service, a kidney donation, mental health advocacy, and a life built on faith and leadership. Welcome to the podcast, Russ.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. How are you doing today?
Oh, today's excellent. It's been a good day. I've been actually doing lots in regards to first responder mental health. So days like today are my favorite days. So
nice.
Today's a good day. Yeah.
Okay, let's dive right back into background. How did firefighting start for you?
Yeah. So firefighting, interestingly for me, like to really condense things. It was never on my radar as a kid. I wasn't one of these kids that, you know, lots of people say they had fire trucks and they were enamored in this stuff. It really, I don't recall being that kind of kid. But then in life, in later years, there might have been a few incipient things that I didn't know was leading me towards it. One being a very fateful snowmobile accident where I was part of an accident in the Sandylands where one of our members died in the forest. And I was with a lot of older riders, and interestingly, one member had a broken back and was paralyzed, and the other member was dying, and died. And I was with these older members, and nobody knew what to do. The riders who, of course, had the maps and knew where we were the two people that were injured. Mm-hmm. And I somehow instinctively made some decisions there that might have been quietly the precursor to fire sitting there, where I told these older men what to do. Because I didn't really know either, but I knew we needed to take action. You can't just stand here flabbergasted. So I told them, pick a direction, ride that way. Eventually you're either going to hit a highway towards Woodridge or you'll end up back where but standing here isn't doing anything. And so help came. Obviously that I could go into detail on how that felt with also my journey with God at that point, because that's very much in my testimony. And then later in life, so you fast forward to that, which I think this will come out later anyways, but my faith. I had a friend that I had grown up with in sports in high school, and he was on the Steinbach Fire Department, and he just started bugging me to join, to which I said no. Because at the time I was actually dating a girl that I ran it past who said, you can do anything in life, but you're not joining the fire department. And so I liked that girl. So I was like, I actually loved her. I thought we were going to get married. And somehow over about 6 months mowing grass, this is a funny fact that maybe has never been told to a lot of people. Mowing grass at Reimer Farm Supplies on their front lawn, up and down. I kept feeling like I was supposed to end it with this girl and join the fire department. And eventually that actually became so loud and noisy, I couldn't sleep well at night. And I actually called off a perfectly good, long-standing relationship and waltzed to the Steinbach Fire Department. Or again, I can't tell you how I applied because I don't remember what it was like 25 years ago. Because it's a little different now. You can't just waltz in. You definitely can visit us, but I can assure any watcher you can't just waltz in. Right. But I applied, and now looking back, seeing what I'm doing, both from a faith standpoint with Jesus and mental health advocacy, wow, I really look at, imagine if I hadn't become a firefighter. I can't even picture that. So my whole life it was just the bugging of my buddy, and I definitely never thought that being a fireman would put me in this seat or talking about it this way. So it's been quite a journey. There's a lot of stories I could tell you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the most challenging call you faced, and how has it shaped you?
Oh boy, most challenging call.
Just so something comes to mind.
Ay. There are so many. I am in Winnipeg and Steinbach. So in Winnipeg, I've now faced thousands. But the difference there, like Winnipeg there, I'm a fire paramedic and I get out and I often have to make those medical decisions. But the different for me in Steinbach, I'm now an assistant chief. So a lot of times I have to make critical decisions that affects everybody on the department. So to say which call there was a time, and maybe this is an example of just one, because there'd be lots, but now one comes to mind. Life over limb. So we practice a principle: risk little, save little; risk a lot, save a lot. We will risk our own lives to the death for you. That's true. We'll make calculated risks, and we will sometimes make those decisions for others as well, based on life over limb. So a good example would be, there was an accident at one time where normally, if you're in an accident, of course, we're very careful not to move you, keep you stabilized, keep vehicle stabilized, and then strategically remove you from that setting. Of course, vehicle bursts into flames or whatever, sometimes we have to move quicker, right? Oh. So we did have a call where a truck was hooked on top of another vehicle. It was a very critical call. I started to notice as the officer that the person in the vehicle was not doing well. I didn't think their chances of survival were very high. We needed to get them out quickly, but we had the problem of a really large commercial vehicle embedded. And looking at the mechanics of it and all the tools we have with the jaws and cribbing, and I was like, this is going to take forever to undo this. And so quietly I actually made a decision on that scene where I instructed a very frantic driver of this commercial truck. So that was difficult to calm them down, to make a move that we normally don't do. We tried to stabilize the one vehicle, and I was fairly convinced that if they would just put their vehicle in reverse, it might hop off without tearing the other vehicle apart, and also without injuring the person who's underneath this. Right. So the danger was the person who's sitting there. Yeah. And big danger that it also would just drag the vehicle. And quietly, there's lots of times, being a faith guy, I will tell you, there are a lot of times that I start praying on a scene where I'm like, Jesus, please let this decision work. Yeah. So if you've ever wondered what your chiefs are doing, some of us are literally praying. Yeah. And the time came, and it was a clutch job, big truck as well. So there's all of that management of trying to smoothly come out of the clutch. And this driver is traumatized, and here I'm barking for him, okay, go. And at first move, it drags the vehicle. Oh, yeah, everybody else stop. And I'm like, nope, keep going. And I said, keep going. I was convinced it was going to pop off of there. And then last minute, it just kind of hopped off of there. We had direct access to the patient. We could do a rapid X, as it's called, because we had no other way. We needed that side. And so here we were able to get the person out alive. I don't need to speak to whether they lived or died. Post that's irrelevant and not information that maybe I should be sharing, even though I don't remember all the details from there. But I do know that action worked. And for the sake of that call, in that moment, regardless, we kept them alive there. Had we not made those decisions, for sure they would have passed away in the vehicle. So that's only an example of, oh my goodness, there'd be so many of those. So if that, you as a listener, gets you thinking about the chaos we face, then good, because that's what we deal with all the time.
Yeah. Like how has it shaped you? Like, was that like one of those experiences where like, okay, that's one of the times, obviously there's probably many times where you realize, yeah, I can definitely rely on God here. Like you said, you prayed, right? Like
right. Yeah, for sure. I can rely on God to come through it. Also reminded me that even times in our life, and I think people need to apply this, especially if they're overly religious rather than in tune with Jesus, is maybe you don't hear anything, maybe you don't feel anything, and you just need to act, remembering that he can stop that, but take action. Like it sometimes doesn't have to be these big moments of knowing he's there or whatever. Just do it. And so sometimes I call it a reverse fleece, where I tell God, I'm going to do this, and if you don't like that or you don't want me to, then you need to stop me, because I'm just going to go do it. And so I'm almost more on that side, where I make decisions. So in that moment, it also just as a human and as someone who's been put more and more in charge of the fire department, I gained a lot of confidence to know, you're making good decisions. Yeah. You had people yell at you there to stop, yet you overrode it and said continue. And then the result in the end was positive. Yeah. one thing I do, especially in my life in the city as a medic, if you're critical, is I always ask myself, or even, well, it's almost more applied to non-critical, is how would I treat you as my family member? So when I walk into a patient, especially on a low acuity call where maybe I'm a little bit annoyed that you called 911, I still try to always remember, if you were my brother, my sister, my mom, or my dad, what would I do right now for you in that situation? And that's how I treat you medically. And thank goodness I love my mom and my dad and my brother, right? So I really want to take the highest level of care of them. And that's often how I frame my paramedic decisions, is what would I do? So in that case of this person, knowing that what if you tear them in half and they die? I knew in that moment, well, either way, they're dying right now. And the longer we wait to move them out of here, the less chance of survival they have, period. So that's the life over limb part, is sometimes if we even only get half your body, hey, it's more than none. So it's empowered me to move up the chain, and I've promoted there to assistant chief in Steinbach. So I'm quite confident on calls that I can take care of my crew to send them home healthy, whole. That's always my highest priority, is that scene safety of, will my members go home whole? And then these days, my biggest adventure is off to the, how's their brain? Like, are they?
And I guess that's something didn't get talked about for the longest time, right?
Oh, we didn't. Mental health was, and it's no offense to anyone, for over a decade, or my first 15 years of my fire career, mental health was not a conversation. We would have critical incident stress debriefings, they were called, after a traumatic incident. And there was a program that was decent, I would say, on how to manage us, so to speak, where we would sit in a room and at least talk about the call. But where that model really today also has kind of fallen apart is, if all I do is talk about the call and bring out the worst emotions and put it on the table and then just sort of leave them there, that could almost be worse than. So we've learned a lot more about the brain, that there has to be a lot more there for people ongoing and on a regular basis, and also to be ahead of those calls. So how do I make sure my mental health tank is high enough right now that I'm ready for a tragic call, a bad call? We can't predict what's coming, and rural departments like you have in this location are still dealing with the highways at high speed, and they see an awful lot of bad accidents, and we're coming into wintertime, and they'll all be thinking it. In Steinbach, we're a little bit fortunate now that our territory's been cut down so much. We don't see as many critical accidents on the highways like we used to, and we were the only department that had the equipment. So that's at least cut down. But I would say the last 10 years, mental health has really changed a lot. And in the last 5, it is the common topic that is a hot topic. Instagram, every social media platform, every conference, everybody's talking mental health. So,
I'm not sure if we would want to say it exactly like this, but it almost feels like COVID did us a favor in that sense.
Yeah. You know what? COVID definitely, and especially in Winnipeg, because there I deal with so many first responder medical calls. I also, at the time of COVID, was right in the downtown in the Osborne Village. So I was on a truck running 5,600 calls a year. So you can do your own math, 5,600 calls divided.
That's a lot.
Yes. So I would go in. We, of course, had to really follow health orders, masks, gowns. I mean, whether we agreed with it or not, it was crazy. I am seeing post-COVID, there's no way anybody would disagree with this. The mental health crisis that's come out of COVID is huge. Our increase in violent calls, in people just not coping. COVID really did a significant amount of damage to humans' mental health. There's no question. And I think at the end of the day, all the agencies that were, I think they genuinely were afraid of this. I'm not a big conspiracist. Sure, maybe there could be certain things to COVID, that's fine. But at the end of the day, I think our local authorities and countries were well-meaning and thinking, this is going to hurt people, we need to protect them. Everybody was kind of caught off guard, so what do we do? So they were moving too quick, and humans weren't ready for this, and a lot of us weren't prepared, and now the post-COVID world is spicy. I like attaching the word spicy to calls where people are a little more snarly, a little more growly.
Yeah.
So definitely COVID put a big dent in people's mental health. There's no question.
Yeah.
I think the good part about that, though, like you were alluding to, is it's exposed mental health in such a way of what we needed anyway. And you know what? The world isn't going to be free of. I'm not. I don't want to focus your watchers in on this, but we're not going to be exempt from something else coming later either. It's life.
Yeah.
So I think we have opportunity to be much better prepared next time. And it really all starts with the brain. You could put on all the gowns and masks and helmets on your head. If your brain isn't right, loading yourself up with PPE or building a shelter underground and living in there, that's not the solution.
No.
It's being whole up here already now and learning how to be resilient, taking care of your mental health, self-care, take care of you, and then you're much better prepared if there's another COVID or whatever it is. You're not right away going into that event going like taking a posture or being angry. So I think COVID in that sense also had a lot of benefits. It certainly helped connect. I found for me, I do a lot of Zoom calls with first responders that are needing a coffee.
Yeah.
And you back up pre-COVID, I didn't know how to use Zoom, or I didn't even think of the concept of being on a screen having a coffee with you. Yeah. Now I have a coffee with a guy that's all the way across the globe, and they're uplifted. They feel like I've sat with them. So I'm very grateful to learning that technology and being okay with it. Because for what I do on my days off, I meet with a lot of first responders. Flying to all these locations would be impossible. Right. So technology has been opened up through it too, which is good. Yeah.
For those who love God, everything serves for good, right?
Totally. Yeah. And I think
so that's just kind of see how, even if it wouldn't be meant for evil, I don't know. Like I cannot speak to that, but
Yep. But and it's even I personally also see that even when we saw it biblically, sometimes it's more amazing the wicked people he's using, and we read their writings about it, and I'm like, and I always find those ones fascinating. So was he even trying to change them from being wicked, or he literally knew they'd be wicked and he's using them? Like they made the Bible and they're totally wicked, and like especially through the Old Testament writings of things like the kings, there's so many bad kings.
Yeah.
But then yet if they hadn't been bad, then way over here this good wouldn't have happened. So I find God to be just masterful in no matter who is moving today, whether they believe in God or not, makes no difference. They're being used by him. Yeah. So it's kind of like, well, you may as well put all in and reap the rewards of the kingdom for free than fight a God who owns you anyway. Yeah. That for me sometimes is stifled in the fire service, where I don't always come out and blurt that out, because I don't want someone who doesn't follow God to take that wrong and feel like I've offended them. Yeah. But if I could cut to the chase with a lot of people, I'd be like, well, why wouldn't you believe in God? Like, especially a first responder. You got people who die every day sometimes. What are we going home and thinking has happened to these people? Like, I at least drive home and it sucks, but I mean, I'll pray for them, or I'll just I always tell myself that everybody goes to heaven, because that's one of the ways I try to cope with it. I don't know who that person is, so I just, I think they were a believer, and but I can't fathom first responders that are okay with no answer to that. It's like, we of all people go out of here and see it. We put ourselves in it. So it's like, I like to know the answer, and especially for myself, I know I'm written in the Lamb's book, and how well I'm doing for the King. Well, that's pretty hard to meet a holy standard, but I'm written in the book. Yeah. And I'm trying my hardest to actually also do well. I'm not flippant to my name there. I'm trying every day to love people like he told me. Just love him and love others. I don't think that that's very hard to say I'll do. Some days it isn't always easy to love people, but I mean, what a truly simple model actually to follow, that everybody's just complicated like crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah. Anyways.
But it's not, loving them and liking them is sometimes
Yeah.
separate things, right?
Yeah, liking can be a lot harder than loving.
And loving sometimes too is, you set boundaries with someone. That's an act
Sure.
of love too, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So I'm gonna pivot completely from that story.
Sure.
Kidney donation.
Yeah.
What's the story behind it? What sparked the decision?
Yeah, so the kidney donation, and that is, there's a short little movie called Without Hesitation through Mid-North Media. Mid-North Media on YouTube. Mid-North Media, that's with Nathan Dick. He did a little movie with me that's just under 6 minutes, I believe. So if anybody on here wants to watch that, sometimes it's a little hard to find because, YouTube, it's not a huge, massive, multi-million viewed video. So
I saw that one. I'll put it in the...
Oh, okay. Okay. So that's a great little piece as well that explains it so well, and he did such a good job of capturing. The Cole's notes on that kidney donation are pretty wild because I say in there that I'm at the water cooler in Steinbach. Kyle Schmidt was somebody that I knew through working with him primarily at the Brandon Fire College. So on the side, him and I both contract teach and evaluate for the Manitoba Emergency Services College. So there are times where we would be in Brandon together, evaluating, teaching. We contract teach to rural fire departments on the side. Kyle was on he is on Winnipeg Fire, but he was in fire prevention because he was very sick in renal failure. So my relationship with Kyle was only a handful of times over a period of 10 years, let's say. And not for some reason. This is a faith-based podcast. God clearly had a hand in this from the beginning of time. So I go to the water cooler at Steinbach. Another member's about to work out in the gym. He says to me, "Did you hear that Kyle Schmidt is in pretty much full renal failure now? He's failed completely." And then I turned around right there at the station and I said, "You mean my Kyle Schmidt?" And what I meant by the word "my" was I was signaling to the other firemen, is this the Kyle I work with at the fire college that I know very little, but at this point, other than that setting. And he goes, "Yeah, I heard that his kidneys have really failed and he's in almost no capacity and he's looking for a kidney." And I just, without thinking at all, like there was nothing, this is how it came out. I said, "Well, shoot, I'll give him my kidney."
Okay.
And in that moment, like I wasn't kidding. Like I just literally said it. And then I think I said, "Wait, how does kidney donation?" I said to the other fireman, how does it work? You can give a kidney, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, you have 2 kidneys." And I was like, man. Then I said, "Well, I better ask my wife." So I literally went from that spot, and there's no embellishment, there's no exaggerating. So in seconds I say, "Yeah, I'll give him a kidney." Within minutes I'm on the phone with my wife in my office at Steinbach Fire going, "Hey, there's a guy I know, his name's Kyle, you've never met him, but we work together. He's on Winnipeg, he's on this platoon, he needs a kidney. What do you think if I give him mine?" So I know nothing about kidney donation. I've never called the hospital, like zero. I just telling her. It's very important that our wives are in agreement with us.
Yeah. Yes.
And she just goes, "Oh, that'd be amazing." So to her, like me, doesn't think at all about what it means to be with one kidney, surgery, nothing. She just, "Oh, can you do it?" Well, I said, "I don't know. I'll call the hospital." And so from the water cooler to her call, my next call immediately was to the living donor program at HSC. You can imagine somebody intaking this phone call. I said, "Who's speaking?" They say their name, and I said, "Okay, you have somebody named Kyle Schmidt, he needs a kidney." And they're like, "Well, it's healthcare." They're like, "We can't tell you that. Like, we can't disclose any of that information." I said, "Well, I know you do because I just texted him." And I had texted him right after my wife saying, "I heard you're in renal failure. I want to give you my kidney." And then I called HSC. And they're like, "Well, we can't tell you that." And then I said, "Well, I already know he needs it. I just texted him. And I'm going to give him mine," I said, or I want to, or whatever came out. And And they were kind of like, have you ever, so you're in the living donor program, like you're the donor? And I said, no, I have no idea. This is the first time I've ever called. And they said, have you ever looked this up or anything? I said, no, I just know that he's sick and I want to give him mine. And that's where the story took off. I had never Google searched it. I had never researched it. I knew nothing, other than being a paramedic, which, did I fully understand what it's going to mean from an anatomy standpoint to give up a kidney? No, I'm not a doctor. I just thought, well, shoot, says we can live with one, he can have my other one. I knew, though, from my experiences with God, and that's where some of the other podcasts or magazines that wrote about this, depending on who speaks with me, I don't always have the full permission to say this as bold as it needs to be said. That was 100% just the grip of the Holy Spirit. I mean, come on. Who does that? Nobody would say in seconds, oh, I'll just, sure, maybe it's you. And I just, yeah, you need a piece of my liver? No problem. and then on top of it, the way God works, right?
Yes.
Well, who's our real check and balance on a human standpoint? Our spouse is a really big check and balance.
Yes.
If you think God's calling you to do something, but your significant other is really uncomfortable with what you're about to do, you need to spend some more time praying.
Yeah.
If you're selling someone on the idea of what God's calling you to, you need to be careful, because sometimes he'll open a door that we pound on that wasn't meant to be opened. So watch it, right? But when your spouse responds like mine did, going, are you the donor? Like in seconds, also not having a clue what it takes to donate a kidney, because that was over a year adventure to even become his donor. I had no idea what I was in for, from tests, it was one heck of a journey, and it was during COVID, so it was wild. From tears to fights to, there's so much I could say in that journey alone that people don't know. It wasn't as simple as open up the doors and the red carpet to a kidney donor. But the other part of God, you see, God was in it, and then later there was the nail in the coffin for God. If anybody, first responders, like, well, I'm not sure I believe in God. Later, when they did our DNA matching, they said that you guys are a perfect match. And I said to them that one I needed to know from them, so I would not be my embellishment or my, what do you mean by a perfect match? Because I'm an O negative guy, so I'm a universal donor, which is great, right? The blood type is good. But the DNA matching for kidneys are very important, and pretty much you don't have to match someone. You don't even have to match super well, but it's more for them as a recipient for what kind of lifespan they're going to get out of this, and what are the chances the body will take it, not reject it. There's a lot there, right? The closer you match, the better it is for that recipient. When you can get a live donor who's young and healthy, and I was very fit at the time of giving the kidney, young, they said it's as though, because I said, what do you mean a perfect match? And they said it's basically, it's like you're both the same person. They said even a twin would likely not have match numbers like this. So they said it's not something we see. And I said, okay, I need you to weigh in, though, from the Health Science Center perspective, the surgeon. How rare is this? And they said a surgeon might never see this ever in their career. Wow. And I said, okay, I needed that. Because quietly I also knew that God is building a story here. And it's very important that people pay attention. Because this isn't about me. I could, for all you know, maybe you have no kidneys right now. I don't know if anybody's ever told you do or you don't. But you can live without them if God says so. That's the point, right? So the funny thing is, as much as people make this story about me, I'm like, this story isn't at all about me. This story is 100% about him. And then when match numbers come in like that, to also say, by the way, not only did you just in a crazy way say, yeah, I'll give him my kidney without even thinking, later you went and matched him in a way that's unheard of. Why do you match like that? I'm also an adopted kid. So if you get into that whole story of, I was never born in Steinbach, I wasn't supposed to be here, this wasn't my story. So why am I here? Well, I was there that day for Kyle. And if you ask me post-journey, there's a whole story there too of when that was all over and said and done, and I woke up missing a kidney and I was in a lot of pain. there's a whole nother story on how I felt about it at that point. I went into some of the worst mental health of my entire life post kidney donation. So definitely that was the grip of the Spirit. That was all God. It was by God. God grew that kidney for Kyle, and he today, man, that guy's doing awesome. He's back. He got back into fire suppression. He was able to start playing hockey. He was able to travel with his family. They've been able to have another child. Like, it's just been amazing to see it. He's a little bit younger than me, so I'm 47, and now he's in his early 40s. So it's been incredible to see what that kidney has done physically for him. So it's been pretty amazing. Yeah.
To that, you kind of talked about it a little bit, like what changed for you afterwards, and you said like kind of like you kind of just touched on a little bit too about how that brought out mental health and all that, right? And I think that would also my next point would be going into mental health and faith. So could you talk to that, like how that affected you afterwards?
Yeah, so there were things within the donation period and me being assigned to such a busy station in the downtown of Winnipeg that there were certain things around the kidney donation that I had never, with no consideration, I guess I never considered the post journey to it either. And so how my family was going to be supported through me being off of work and the finances, and I didn't consider any of it. I never thought about it. I didn't plan for it, and it didn't go. I wouldn't say that I had a ton of expectation, but it surprised me. It just didn't go very well. And there's some surprising behaviors around my kidney donation that were not how I felt things would go, and so it started to have a tremendous impact on me financially. Physically, obviously, I was also laid up like I've never been before. That was a major surgery. I re-injured myself partway through as well. I think I tore some of the sutures inside, or I didn't totally follow the doctor's orders on no lifting. Right. And so now I was unable to work. I had seen a lot of trauma in the city. I wasn't really taking part in therapy. And I was slowly slipping into a really bad state. And actually ended up in the worst mental state of my entire life. And it led towards, I can say this now, the journey's just starting to come out on other podcasts and different messages that I myself became suicidal. So I quietly, even with all the Jesus and all the journeying and all the, there was a very dramatic call in Winnipeg that really, I'll never forget that call ever. And I'm not going to disclose any details on that. It was a life changer for me. And that combined with how things were going with the post kidney donation, I snapped. I just, all of a sudden, I was just angry. I was different. I had basically, I don't even know I definitely got mad at God in that journey too. I felt like he got really quiet, which I think a lot of times he does on purpose so that we really experience our own true wilderness moment where we have to rely on knowing that he's there. But I just thought humans were inherently bad, and it was in a switch. It just all of a sudden that day, that's it. The world's inherently dark. Humans are inherently bad. I don't trust anyone. And that goes for pastors, friends. I'm done. Everybody's a liar. This world is just going for garbage. Nothing can fix it. And it just went dark, and I went into a crazy negative loop mixed with, I called it rage at the time. It wasn't even anger. And I had never been, my whole life, I learned later that I had stifled that probably, in an unhealthy way, I never dealt with anger. So now all of a sudden, as it came out, because I was never angry, or I thought, which quietly had lots of reasons to be angry growing up, and I just always stifled that emotion. Well, I built a volcano of anger that now all of a sudden in one moment came out then in unrealistic rage. And now it's like, oh my goodness, like for my poor wife sitting there going, I have a festering, angry firefighter that is completely broken. He's mad at everyone and everything. And he sits in the yard and he stares all day, not wanting to be alive. just challenging God who isn't answering me. Why should I stay here? Especially, and this is a crazy rabbit trail I could go long into other things with people on, is why wouldn't I, knowing that the kingdom is there, want to just go to the kingdom? Because I'm not, and this could open up all kinds of discussion. And I'm okay with controversy. If somebody doesn't like what I said here or say here, that's fine, because I'm totally okay with nobody has to totally agree with me. I'd love you to send me a message on Instagram then to let's poke around on what I'm about to say. But not for a second do I believe at all that because I would commit suicide that I wouldn't have entry into the kingdom. Okay. So and I would have lots to say why I firmly and rock solid sit on that. Not to argue with someone. That's my journey. That's my story. I did not feel while staring off into the abyss that God was saying, if you do this, you're not coming. That's not what blocked me from killing myself. The number one thing that stopped me from killing myself, interestingly, was I was trying to come up with a way that I could take my own life and not have another first responder find me, so that I wouldn't traumatize them the way I've been traumatized by the same calls. Because those calls are brutal. Going to suicide calls, even the whole atmosphere, they're just brutal. They don't feel right. They are like definitely rank in my least favorite category. And unfortunately, I do go to them more than I'd like to. Well, would never like to. I wish all humans would quit having that as an option. But if you're a kingdom person and you believe you could go to the kingdom, that makes it almost worse, because you're like, I can just get, like, it's like Monopoly, the get out of jail free card, or like, I'm done. And knowing that my family's in right standing, and it's like, well, why wouldn't I just go? And so that's what I sat on for about 6 months, and then had high level intervention, thank goodness, through science, through the BC PFFA, which is the BC Professional Firefighters Association. I went to Loon Lake on Vancouver Island, which was a 5-day intensive therapy for people with PTSD, and absolutely saved my life. Which is where you now see me sitting here with a launched nonprofit proactive peer support company for first responder mental health. It's come out of all of that. Yeah.
Let's get to that one later. I'd like to hear your answer about the option that we can tap out our life and still make it to the kingdom. Like, I'm generally a curious person, so I'm curious, like what
the thoughts are there. Yeah, I love that. Sure, absolutely. Because I could, of course, in stuff like that, I could discuss at length. Right, we all journey, and I believe it's very important that as you journey with Jesus, that you come to spots in your life, not to argue with people, but where you conclusively know that it's Him speaking, that He has shown you this, that it's absolute. And that's not to be right. It's not to argue with someone. I'm not that person. I'm never going to argue with someone, like argue faith. I'm more of a, if God is real and you need to argue with me, then the first thing you should do is go out by yourself and ask God for yourself, even if you're angry, if He's real. If He's real, He will be real to you. I think it's so important that you encounter Him in such a way that He's real. So then in journeys like this, as I'm sitting there contemplating, it was very important that I knew wholeheartedly where He actually stands and sits in this. But very interestingly, He was very quiet during that journey. But because it's so ingrained, and it is absolutely a truth, that even though He's quiet, good luck if you're really walking in step with Jesus, coming to the conclusion that He's not there. So as many times as I would try to get mad at Him and say, you're not even here, you're not even listening, you're not even saying anything, He, like, and even now, I could almost be like, I'm right here. You even know where I'm sitting. Like, there were times in my truck where it was like, I knew he was sitting in the back seat, like to my right. That's what I would tell you. But He was interestingly no longer riding in the front with me. So I knew that He instinctively, if I'd get over being angry, I knew He was intentionally being quiet for me to have a moment of, it's time for you to journey, like literally into the abyss here, because it's going to do something. Now, because I can see the flip side, I see what it's done. The reason why I do not believe that somebody that ends their own life is some kind of abominable sin, or you playing God because you took life, or if Jesus is inherently love, and he says that, in fact, the law and the prophets can be summarized in these two things. And I like that. I always like the cheat code. Give me the easier way to figure out how we're supposed to do this, right? Rather than the 10 Commandments, all this stuff. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul and mind. Like first, right? Love me first, and then love others. So be just like me. Mm-hmm. Now that, of course, good luck at the end of every day feeling like you truly loved others, because that's also in your, even when you judge someone in your heart, you're not really, we instinctively judge or control. But now when I look at a God like that, and he says he's journeyed in everything we journeyed. And one thing that really got my attention during this journey in the scriptures was when he was in the wilderness and he got left where God was silent. So I started journeying there and I'm like, wait a minute, Jesus did this. Jesus himself went to the wilderness and God was totally silent. And he felt abandoned. We get this sense that Jesus felt alone. So then when Satan would come and talk to him, interestingly, Satan quoted scripture a lot.
Right.
And Jesus sometimes would rely on the word, which was interesting. He wouldn't go off the Holy Spirit or some kind of feeling or power. He'd quote scripture back as a truth, that the Father doesn't abandon us, right? But there's one spot in there that got my attention more, and that was when Jesus was at a high place. It says he went to a high place on the temple, and now, interestingly, Satan comes along and says, throw yourself off. But I stopped there, and that one caused me to weep. And again, all your watchers for yourself, you take this where you want to go on your journey. I'm the one sitting suicidal. And that passage all of a sudden gripped me that, wait a minute, was he standing on a high place because he himself was contemplating going home to the Father? He said to us that there's not a single thing, this gives me chills, and it could make me emotional. There's not a single thing that we'll experience as human that he himself has not experienced. Therefore, he has experienced mental illness.
Yeah.
He has experienced what it is like to be suicidal. Otherwise, he himself did not tell us the truth. And all the people on the planet. Now think of this.
That's a powerful statement.
Oh, and I get chills that you asked me, because that is not a very, what I just shared with you is very private amongst people that are very close to me who walk with Jesus. To publicly say what I just said, I have never been asked that, and I have never said that to a forum that would be wide open like this. But I want people to consider, if you really would get a glimpse as to how many people, regardless of their belief, their creed, their faith, their background, whatever, are struggling today in mental health. How many of them are at levels where they would say they're not suicidal, but they wish that if there was a way they could be gone yesterday, they would be. They just don't want to hurt themselves, right?
Yeah.
Which really is what I did for a long time. So there are hundreds of millions of people sitting on a high place, like I just said. And if this Jesus who loves us so stinking much would then turn around on that one act and say, oh man, I loved you so much, but too bad you did it this way, because now I'm erasing your name out of the Lamb's book. Not a chance. In fact, the thing that I love about it is, and what I've said to my members in the fire department, is if you are ever going to take your own life, you can, and I won't stop you, just like God wasn't going to stop me. But I want you to call me so I can be with you, so that if you die, you do not die alone. So one thing I knew, and this is for me, okay? My high place, if I jumped off, he was going with me. Right to the bottom. Would he have grieved it? You bet. Would he have said, this wasn't my plan, or this wasn't what I wanted? Absolutely. And again, that does not contradict his sovereignty, his will. You're not playing God. He knows what you will choose. And the power of free will is he will let you take your own life in love if you choose to do so. But it'll break his heart, probably like no other. Just like I told you, the worst call that I go to is suicide. I do not like it, because it is one thing that is actually preventable. But that's where lots of this comes on. We seeing people and being willing to actually say, are you okay? Hey, how you doing at the grocery store? Quit using always self-checkouts. Go to the clerk and how's your day?
Yeah.
Look people in the eyes. Be human. Don't bury yourself in screens. We're being tricked into a life that's going to take a lot more people to high places where they go, nobody would notice if I do this. But you know what? Even people who have never put it on Jesus, he's standing right there with them, and he stood there before. And so interestingly, he's standing there, and he responds to the enemy again with Scripture, and he manages to come away. But we don't get the long version. You don't get to go to Jesus right now and ask the long version of what he was feeling on why he was standing there in the first place. What are you doing? Right? Are you just standing there to parade power? I don't think so. He's broken. He's hungry. He's tired. He's destitute. We get a 40-day. He didn't get told his 40 days. He didn't have any calendar to count down when he was coming out of here. As far as he knew, he was abandoned. And we hear it again on the cross because he cries out, and he's not sure anymore. Am I who I think I am? My God, why have you forsaken me? Where are you? And that's where I sat on my property. But not for a second did I ever get the sense that he would now come and say, now you are no longer my child. Not a chance. So anybody today who is doing those things, or anybody who's lost someone to it, please take heart. These people are not in the kingdom because of that. I can't attest to where they were pre, but mental illness is a real thing, and I'll tell you, it is brutal. What do you do with a dementia person who starts just living like hell, and they have no idea they're living like that because their brain has done it? Do they lose their name in the Lamb's book because now they don't live a certain way? No. So that's not the way our God works. He is so gracious, tenderhearted, and mercy. So there is no way that taking your own life has any impact other than, I think, just like for me as a first responder, that's a grievous event, and it hurts people left so badly compared to other ways of dying. Yeah. So unfortunately, you hurt your loved ones, people around you, so greatly when you do that. But again, when people are locked in that, like I lost a friend recently to suicide, and that's also part of where this all comes from. And he didn't mean to hurt anyone. When you're so locked into no hope, those people really believe they have no hope. And I get it. I sat there too, just thinking, this is horrible. I'm never going to get out of this. And when that feeling is there, sun up to sundown, consecutive days, it's just that gross in your gut, it becomes unbearable. And so I believe a lot of people it's a moment, and then all of a sudden you're like, I can't take it anymore. And so mental illness is a horrible, oh man, it is a horrible place to be trapped. So I hope whoever watches your stuff as well, please find a way to reach out to somebody like myself or whoever there are lots of things out there to not journey alone and start climbing out of the loneliness that you believe you're in. Yeah. Hopefully that answers your question better. No, I love it that you asked me that, because that, again, that could, for a lot of people, especially a community like Bible heavy communities, it stirs a lot of controversy when I speak like that sometimes. But that's good controversy.
Controversy's good.
Yeah. It gets us thinking, growing, challenging. Yeah. And then you can always go home and ask Jesus for yourself what you think about what I just said.
And then study.
Yeah. But that's my journey, and so nobody's going to sway me off of that thought or belief of what I just said.
Yeah.
But if it bugged someone, well, good. Then when you drive home, ask for yourself if you think that's true, and then contemplate. Like I said, read the scriptures about the high place and think about it. He said he has somehow experienced everything we'll ever face here, which when you apply it to some of our stuff today, I struggle with a lot of other topics that don't need to come up here for how he experienced that.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah. And then I'm not saying one or the other, but as you were talking, it reminded me as he was on the cross and he felt completely abandoned by God. Mm-hmm. He then, him himself being God, said, he gave up his spirit.
Right.
Like technically he wasn't supposed to be dead.
Yeah.
Because when the Roman soldiers came, they wanted to break the knees because
Right.
they usually live longer.
Right.
But he was gone, right?
Right.
Like I'm not saying one thing or the other, but it's just something that came to mind. It's interesting.
Yes. And in those moments, even though he's fully God, we have to remember he was fully human.
Yeah.
If we remove the human part and we get so caught up on holiness and righteousness that we're afraid to say that, or even you're supposed to be just like Jesus, and people are scared to say that I'm behaving like Jesus. You didn't call yourself Jesus explicitly, but if we can't attach to the fully human part, well, like if we always just say, "Wow, yeah, he was," but he was God.
Yeah.
I don't think he really knew who he was. Otherwise, all of these journeys, he wouldn't have actually experienced it. Yeah. So him dying, he actually died.
Yeah.
So coming back, I don't think God told him, "Oh, by the way, like, don't worry, this is what happens when you die." I think there was a lot of like, "Oh my goodness, I'm dying. This hurts. Like, where are you?" You know, he's crying out if there's another way. Like, right? So he was human.
Yeah. Well, it's in a lot of things. Like we have knowledge. I'm just thinking from human perspective. I might have so much knowledge about this one thing, but when you actually come to experience that thing, you're like, okay, this is different than living. It's different than knowing, right?
Yeah. Oh, totally.
So
yeah.
I'm not sure how that plays in there, like with him, but
yeah,
it's just like, and then too, like, I'm not sure if you have watched the shows and at all, but I feel like that.
The Chosen? Oh, I like it. It's a. I think that series has a lot of that's very real in my opinion. I think that is very much a very accurate portrayal of Jesus, of the disciples. I think it's a good series for people to watch.
Oh yeah, and then the first episode I cried, and it takes quite a bit.
Yeah.
I mean, TV, yes, like I love a good movie, a good story.
Yeah.
But it's like there's something about the story that's so big.
When he walks in, it just in that first one, and you're just overcome with emotion.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because it's beyond you don't understand. It's hard to grasp. Like, how did that all work?
And there it's interesting. It kicks right off with all we know immediately is he accepts that woman exactly as she is.
Yeah.
And then you know that you are accepted and you're not worthy of it. That's why it hits us so hard.
Yeah.
I think you could be the best human by human standards on the planet, and deep down, if you're in tune with God, you know that you are nowhere near worthy of going anywhere near his kingdom. And so when that hits you over and over and over and over and over, well, that's why we give kidneys and stuff, because it's like this kingdom, this God who loves us so much when we don't deserve it is amazing. Like, I am so grateful that I get to be his kid, that I get to be part of his kingdom, that I get to be called to be in his journey. Like, who am I? Right? So
I feel like I've seen one of your reels somewhere. You talked about like experiencing God like in the mountains, or like how
yes.
How did you get to know God? Like actually, get to know him. Like, I mean, yes, if we growing up in this area, like we hear about faith in one way or another, right?
Yeah, so that's a big story. I'm adopted. I'm a middle kid. There's all kinds sitting there that really doesn't make a lot of sense. Given up at 3 months of age to a mom that was working, have an older sibling, a younger sibling, adopted into Steinbach at 6 months of age, had a different name at birth. My name was Stephen Douglas Presley. Now I'm Russell Dale Reimer. There's so many pieces that sits there leading up to a life of church. Go to the EMC on Main Street because that's what we did. I love church, but I'm also I was one of those guys that had to try everything. So in the sports life and a popular kid, and I found my way over to substance abuse and early, liked to drink. It wasn't really peer pressured. I don't feel like I did anything to fit in. I feel like more so people maybe followed more what I did. But life, through high school and stuff I was not living a godly life. And basically I had come to the conclusion that God was only as real as what the church and everybody else had told me. But I've always been a challenger, I think in a good way, but it sometimes can be a bit abrasive or rough. And it was sort of like, well, if God is real, then how come he's not real to me? And what I meant was, it's great for someone to speak about him, But if he's actually real and in our lives, I was actually to the point where I'm like, well, then show up. Like you, like sitting across from me, why not? So I started to challenge him in that way of, if you're real, then be real, but be real to me. Not a good sermon, not somebody else's Jesus. If Jesus is real, then prove it. And maybe a little arrogant and cheeky, and not always the best road to go with God. But that became, through my rebellion, I would use that as justification also to drink and do all this stuff because he wasn't being real. So he's not showing up. So therefore, my life started going more and more the other way of not real. Privately, a lot of my friends didn't know that I'd finish a party and sometimes I'd be almost totally inebriated and I'd go home to an 18-acre property and cry at the side of a barn calling out for God to be real. They never heard those stories where I'd sit there with the snow and be like, make a sound, like do something, like begging him to be what I had been taught, to utter silence. And so more and more and more reckless and angry. So you can imagine this snowmobile accident with a guy dying. Well, then as I sit there, well, now I was like a hornet's nest going, you allow this to happen for a 19-year-old that's calling out for you to be real? What kind of scumbag does that? So now I'm actually angry, saying there's no God. Looking back, it's very interesting how many times I spoke to a God who was there saying there was no God there. That's a funny thing. Because I went all the time talking to who then? And now it's funny how I even have the narrative back. So it's like, that's very interesting. But in that moment, I just continued to sort of curse God and say, you're not real. And now you've given me this dead guy. So now what do I do? And that fueled my addictions like level 50. So to try and cope with that death at 19 was very hard for me. And so now I started to drink and be reckless at levels that were absurd. One of my other friends who was part of that accident with me, months later, and I don't remember exactly how long, but he all of a sudden called me up, because we wouldn't have had text messaging back then, and said, hey, do you want to go to a Bible school in Austria? There's a 3-month school, Capenray, in Tauernhof. And shortest Bible school on the planet, I think. And I quietly just was like, yes, because I knew my parents will pay for the trip, thinking that I'm going to seek God. So my mind immediately went to, well, they'll pay. We'll pack a backpack. We go travel Europe. Lots of alcohol in Austria and Germany, as far as I knew, because they're big beer makers. And whether or not I get kicked out by the school, I didn't really care about any of that. I was a very rebellious young man at this point. And so I said, yeah, that's a great idea. And then we get out of Steinbach because I'm tired of hearing about this accident. I need to just get away. So I told my parents the idea, and of course they reacted exactly the way I thought. Of course they'd pay. We were way past the deadline for a Capenray. Capenrays are very, very popular destination, so they're full. So we were way past the deadline. I somehow get this application. The questionnaire to go to Bible school had questions about addictions, but there was no categories for currently doing addictions. They were all, have you ever? So I created my own line in pencil or pen and put in dots on the application for currently doing. So I told them I'm currently drinking, I'm currently doing drugs. And then my parents, I'll never forget, because I'm a little cheeky that way. They said, what are you doing? I said, wow, they didn't have a line for me. Well, you're not going to get accepted, they said, if you're on all these things. It's a Bible school. And then I, very fiery, said, if God is real and this is the plan, then I'll get in. It doesn't matter what I write on here. And I continued to fill it out. And my parents were quiet. And it's a school calling. Okay. So to summarize, because again, big story, right? And people can ask me for this, and I'm trying to make a video of it actually to get it online properly framed. I get accepted to this school. I drink as much alcohol as I can on the way to the school because the school did have a policy: if you drink, you're going to get kicked out. So I actually arrive in Austria completely intoxicated. We fumble our way to the school. It's far too early to get in. And at 4 a.m, I'm banging on this Bible school door, completely drunk, reeking of cigarettes, smoked and drank as much as I can. And the sweet girl named Christine answers the door, and I said, like I'm enrolled here. I just need my bed. Like, I'm totally rude. I'm a jerk. She sweetly says, well, we don't start intaking the students till 7 a.m. And I kind of tell her off and tell her if she doesn't give me my bed, she can probably use explicits. I don't know. I was drunk. Next thing I knew, I woke up from being passed out in a bunk bed with people from all over the world making their beds in this room. And reality set in on, what in the world have you done? Because these people are all living for Jesus. I mean, they're here to learn about him, and you need rehab. And 3 days into the school, I was not doing well. I was not meshing well. I was a problem. They had me on their radar for sending me home. They were going to kick me out. And I trudged up a mountain called the Planai. People can look this up. It's a men's world championship ski downhill in wintertime. It's right beside the school, so it's fairly steep. This was a time of year where it's grassy. There's a path that follows that you can hike beside this river.
Nice.
And so the Planai, which is Planai, in Austria, in Schladming, you can check it out. I hiked that path on day 3, found a spot where the water's really rushing. I climbed down there off the path, tried to look, make sure nobody could see me, nobody could hear me. And one last time, I felt, I'm going to call out for God to be real. And now I'm also detoxing. So I am the most angry. I can feel it in me as I share it, that I've ever been in my entire life, saying, you better be real, or else, what in the world? Like, when are you ever going to show up? And I'm pacing around saying things I shouldn't say to a God who is real. It's like river rock on the side. The water's cruising, but it's not terribly deep, 2-3 feet. And all of a sudden, while I'm doing this, and this is really good sometimes when I'm standing to share this one, because this is wild. So all of a sudden, while I'm just festering and crying and angry, in the water, he's there. He's standing there, and he's facing me. Hands open. That's why standing up is good for this one. But hands open, facing me. There's a robe on. He's in the water, and I'll explain more how I know he's physically there. This isn't a vision. This isn't a dream. He's there. Mm-hmm. Most people might think, well, you must have had all these feelings to grab him. No. God is standing in the water. I instantly faceplant so hard into the river rock that I probably just about smashed my forehead open. And if you've ever had it where you can hear your heartbeat in your ears, like where your blood shunts so bad, right, that you're hearing, like, it just, my adrenaline rocketed to a level, like I'm hearing the thumping, I'm face planted in this rock, my heart is going, and then it didn't take long at all, and my brain is going, without looking, I was just like, there's no way you're actually seeing that. Like, impossible. You know, there's all the scriptures even, you can't see God and live, on and on and on. And I am thumping, laying there, and there's 2 things that were very distinct. I was so scared to look because of him not being there. And I knew that what I wanted was for this to be real and him to be there. So I very slowly, without getting up, moved my head to my right to see if he's there, and he is standing there just looking at me. That's it. He doesn't say a word. And his robe, interestingly, is floating on the top of the water, so I knew that his feet are in the river rock. He's physically standing there. This isn't, he's not on top of the water. He's not hovering over the water. He's in the water. And within seconds, and I think it's probably the equivalent of near death for people, as he looked at me, he didn't say a word, but in seconds, I could go all the way back to my adoption. That middle kid, I could see myself as a baby. It's like I could see the flash of everywhere he had always been in seconds. He just spoke it into my soul. So my reaction, because now a lot of people get intrigued on, what did he look like? What did you do? Do you know what I did? My face went back in the stones, and I sobbed in such a way, like, if you've ever had those moments where it's like coming out of you, it was pouring out of me. And do you know what the feeling was? Relief. It was the unbelievable relief that everything I had already been told was true was completely true, and now I knew it. I knew it. So I didn't have all kinds of, like, I don't know what people would think would come from an encounter with God, really. I don't know if you know what you're expecting with an encounter with God. I never thought about writing a book or speaking about it, or I've actually met Jesus Christ. I just had relief that means the kingdom's real. That means heaven's real. That means, like, all of a sudden, all the teachings that had already been there were coming together in one big package saying, that's why you're alive. That's why humans are here. So when I finally got over crying there, I got up from there and I ran down this trail. It's a wonder I didn't trip forwards. If you ever run down a mountain trail, that's not a good idea.
Right.
Like, eventually you're going to trip. And I started telling people in the school that Jesus was real. But this is at a Bible school. So I found out later that the administrators, actually, I found out about 3-4 days later, they had their eyes on me. Good consideration, actually. I never thought of it. They thought I had gone up the mountain and shot up on some kind of drugs. Because they said, like, I was making a claim that I had met Jesus in the flesh. And they had never heard anybody speak like that. And I could give you even more of a nugget, but I'll keep it for now because it's too big. Of fast forwarding to around 2014 in Los Angeles, running into a German firefighter from Stuttgart who starts telling me my story backwards of a Canadian who met God on a mountain in Austria while him and I are doing shifts with Firefighters for Christ. And I said, Stefan, that's me. I'm the Canadian firefighter. And he had a friend who worked at the Bible school when that happened. And he's like, what? And meanwhile, he came from a spouse that committed suicide after he was serving for Firefighters for Christ. So he's a dear, dear brother of mine in Stuttgart Fire Brigade in Germany. But even there, the world becoming small, he knew my story for over a decade before he ever met me. And the school to this day tells that story of a Canadian who physically had Jesus arrive on that mountain. So it's an unbelievable story. People out there who say, they don't believe that, that's okay. I give kidneys in milliseconds. If I'm doing all of this off of some cool made up story, then good for me. It's impossible. My life from that moment, I've never been the same, and I am radically bold. So I will never disbelieve in the kingdom or Christ. That's one thing the enemy knows, that he may as well not bother going after me for that, for disbelief. He instead ensues havoc in the rest of my life to try and just wreck everybody around me. But you're never going to tell me that Jesus isn't exactly who he said he is. He literally showed up. So in trade, because I had said, you be real. Well, he was real. So I gave him my whole life, physical, everything. I might not always be a great person and a stellar Christian by the book standards, but I'm all in for Jesus. And anything he asks me to do, if it's from him, I'll do it. So that's a pretty, but I would caution people, if that's what you desire, like a physical encounter with Jesus, my life was a mess to get there. So I'd be careful what you wish for. If he has to show up to you like that to be real, you're obviously living in such a way that's pretty rough. So I don't know that I'd go back in time and want that. I wish I had rather just been the kid that actually believed in church, and lots of my high school years were an absolute waste that I'll never get back. And but I'm not one to live in lament and regret. I believe that every decision I made shaped me to be where I am today. And lo and behold, I work in an industry that's full of addictions. So maybe it was a good thing that I myself struggle with addiction. Perfect, right? I can really relate to guys that are drinking their faces off or doing drugs to try and escape what they're seeing. I get it. Yeah. And it's my clientele as a paramedic is often coming out of, unfortunately, alcohol and drugs. So so it's quite a journey I've been on.
That's quite the story. Like it's like a wilderness journey almost for you for years.
Yeah.
in that sense.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Totally.
Let's go with, I don't know, something like, what's something that people might never have guessed about you?
That's an interesting question. Here's a good one, because even nobody's going to believe it. Even on this is my favorite one, because I get this a lot. I can't seem to prove it. I think my spouse could prove it, or my kids even at times. But believe it or not, my personality is not extroverted. Yeah, I am an introvert through and through.
That's wild.
Yeah, and I can sit in silence like, Like sitting even in an airport for a 3-hour wait is no problem for me. And what I really like to do is put noise canceling headphones on so I don't have to talk to anyone. A lot of times I don't get that luxury. People get put in my path in such a way that I basically get forced to talk to them. And then these turn into some pretty wild stories. But the truth is, when I get out of these settings, when I get home even daily, so much of me is the proof of the introvert, like to sit in the trees or to go in the mountains and be alone. Just totally alone. I dangerously hike in places that you shouldn't hike alone. People don't like it that I hike alone. I tell them, if I die, you'll find out some way, shape, or form. I really, really, really like to be alone. Mm-hmm. And even my fire buddies, they love that one because they make fun of me all the time with that one, saying, yeah, right. Even out there, they're like, you probably talk God's ears off. And I actually can be very quiet, and it's interesting that I can sense, even driving my truck here, if you'd listen to the ambient tones I listened to from the meeting I just had with Stars to your podcast, and in between I listen to these ambient low tones. There's just tones. There's no singing. And I just drift off into thinking about the kingdom. Totally quiet. Totally somber. Lots of somber tone. And it's just not what people expect from me at all. Because I'm not known like that in any setting. Yeah. All through my report cards, talks a lot, like on and on and on. But I'm absolutely 100% an introvert.
Right. But, that's interesting.
But I think it's also proof of the Holy Spirit, because it's for all of you that I'm an extrovert. And for me, selfishly, I'm an introvert. There's no doubt in the kingdom, I think my place is a log timber cabin with a fireplace. I'll have a German short-haired pointer for sure, because I love that dog and I don't have one. I just always wanted one. And there'll be a mountain with a pond for me to climb every day. I think that's my eternity.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would, with that in mind, I'm guessing that kind of connects to, like, what would you do for fun, like hobbies?
Yeah. So hobbies, hockey's a big one for me. Like it's, I'm starting to really feel the pain of that, but I have really, really noticed that I love playing hockey, and something about the drop of the puck, and there's no text messaging on the ice. There's no phone. There's no even the smell of an ice rink. It just for me is a total escape. If people die, if the world starts ending while we're playing hockey, we're probably going to find out after we come out of the dressing room, and it'll be what it'll be. It also gets me into a peak heart rate that I can't even duplicate in the gym. Like I can't hit 180 heart rate off of a core machine because I can't push that hard. But chasing that little puck around, boy, there's times it surprisingly get awfully high on my heart rate, and so I just love what it does is hockey. Being out in nature in any way, shape, or form would be really high on my list as well. So it doesn't even have to be hiking. If I can find a little nook to sit in where the tree, I feel like nature can speak. Like there are times where the people think it's nuts or not. I speak with the trees. I often look at them unbothered, untouched, taken care of, and think about those passages like we were told. They worry about nothing, and yet they're perfect. Yeah. And I worry so much, right? And stuff like that. So those are high on my list. I learned through mental illness, actually, I like to ride my bicycle. So interestingly, I like to just ride bicycle. I like to just ride it somewhere. I like to do errands even in Steinbach if I'm working at the station on my bicycle. That was something that was new to me that I didn't realize from childhood how much I wanted back in adulthood. And then reading is interestingly starting to take the stage a little bit. And so being a talker, and often in this setting, it's maybe more of a proof of an introvert side. I don't know. Reading just seems to have come out of nowhere. And sometimes it's full-on fiction, like more towards the Narnia type of books where I can escape a bit from my real life that is very full of this and other things to dreaming about that kingdom again. Just more and more knowing that that's actually what life's going to be. Right. It begins when we die. Yeah. So that would be some things about me that I really like. And of course, time with family is gold. Oh, fires, lighting fires. Prudently lighting fires as a fireman. I really like the smell of good wood smoke. Okay. That is a powerful trigger for me of peace. So I burn birch at home. I try to save it for inside, but if I light any birch outside, and I will intentionally stick my head over the fire while it builds so I get the smoke. That birch bark, when that first hits me, that is a straight calming dopamine. Whew, that is a good one.
I wonder what that is. Like, if I know more people than myself find the same. Like, what is it about?
Camp, anywhere you go where you slow down, I bet you it's related to where have you ever gone around a campfire and it's all hectic or whatever? As soon as people start staring around a fire, what happens? They just slow right down.
Yeah,
and
peace settles in.
Yeah, and then really there's no light talk that comes out of that. You start talking real.
Yeah.
So I wonder if we're not attaching to fires we had as kids or being around a campfire or whatever. But yeah, there's a real attachment of peace with good wood fire smoke.
Yeah.
House fires, that doesn't smell good.
No, so I imagine.
The plastic is gross.
Yeah. No, maybe there's something about where we're meant for a simple life. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that is true. We are meant for a simple life, and I would stand by that. We came from nature. I think it's like, this is great that you have all this equipment, but this isn't what we were born for. And I think the technology that we're living in is absolutely destroying us, even though we meant it to do tasks or be easier. I mean, you don't even want to get into the forecasts of AI. This is. I think we can find our ways of finding the good. Those of us that are looking for that. But overall, this is a very difficult time to be alive. When I look at my kids and the screen life, it's like you were meant to go out and sit with that tree like I do. And it is hard for a modern day human to go sit with that tree.
Yeah.
But that's what we came from. So this stuff wasn't there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think what you just said, that we come from nature. Yeah, you bet. That's where we belong.
Okay, so closing. Anything we didn't cover you'd like to share? So I'd like to go back to VCU.
Yeah. So yeah, a big thing for me these days is I've founded a nonprofit proactive peer support company. The premise of it is very aggressive. It's actually trying to change the first responder themselves into becoming peer supporters to each other. So it doesn't eliminate the need for a peer support team or a trauma team when there are bad calls, but the emergency services industry primarily is reactive peer support, where we get a bad call, so then a crew of trained people comes and asks us how we're doing. Rather than me, every time I work with you in the station every day already, just saying, hey, how are you today? And then maybe asking you again a second time, because you're going to say, oh, I'm good, how about you? Because everybody always does that.
Yeah.
I might ask you twice and say, so how are you really though? I didn't just ask for the passing comment of I'm fine. I asked for the real, how are you? How are your kids? How's your wife? How's life? How's finances? How's this? How's that? And so what I found in the fire environments where I'm in, changing the kitchen table talk over to, as a crew, we're actually knowing more about each other. Who are your kids? What are my challenges? And it's, we see you comes from you actually knowing that the people around you see you. And what I mean by that is they don't just see the surface and not have time to ask
what
you how
you put on.
They actually see how you really are. And if you started to trend differently, they would notice when you came in a room, they would probably wait for their prudent moment to say, hey, are you okay today? Because you seem a little low or a little off. And then quietly, once that trust is there, you're probably going to say, you know what, you're right. I'm having a struggle. Okay. And even if there's no time right in that moment, that's fine. It's not always about getting caught up. Like, I can't talk about this right now. You can say to people, hey, would you have time this week? Could we sit down and have a coffee? I'd love to just be a set of ears for you so you're not alone. So back to that moment of, I'm going to jump off of something. No, this comes in and destroys that with, if you're going to jump, I'm going to come stand there with you. So you're not going to do this alone. And so the we see you came from a friend of mine who committed suicide. I was nothing about the people around him. It's a culture thing of, yeah, maybe they saw him, maybe they knew, but maybe they also were afraid to say anything to him. Maybe they knew he wasn't doing well and they thought, I'm not a good speaker, or I don't have the right kind of words, or maybe they're thinking, oh, he's probably getting help, or We have to start becoming humans that even in the grocery store, the other day I had a girl that was staring off into space. I felt like I had words to encourage her. I didn't know her at all. This was in Winnipeg. We were in line as firefighters buying groceries. I said to my crewmate, I'm about to do something that might make you a little uncomfortable. I hope you're okay with that. And they're like, no, because they already work with me. And I said to her right in the lineup, I said, I think I have words for you. I know you don't know me, but I'm going to share this with you. I believe this is going to be absolutely true. And I gave her all these words about her life. And then I said, and I'm going to stop now so that you don't start crying, because I know that I'm making you very emotional and you have other people to serve. But I said, I really want you to think when I leave what just happened here. I'm literally on the city fire department, and I shared things about you that I shouldn't have known. So, and I left that with her. And I do that actually quite often. So my crew is used to that. That type of behavior though, so that's a little radical. So for some people out there giving kidneys and whatever, it's still what you're called to do. I'm not going to sit here and say that everybody's called to give a kidney or talk to the grocery clerk. Right. But you certainly could go to the neighbor's house beside you if you never have. And some of you probably have lived 10, 15 years beside someone.
Right.
And you have never knocked on their door just to simply say, you know, this might be a little unusual, but I listened to a podcast today that motivated me to do this. So I'm actually just knocking on the door to ask you how you are today. I promise you, if humans all over the globe would listen to your podcast and go do this at every door on the planet tomorrow would be different.
Yeah.
No, and I'm not saying forever,
no.
But tomorrow, the day on planet Earth would be one day that would be totally different, because the needle and everybody's mental health would move up at least a point. And so if we as humans, like this is for first responders. So primarily I'm called to police, fire, military, corrections, EMS. Like that's where I'm focused. Any way, shape, and form. I've got a GoFundMe under my Instagram, Russ Reimer 5353. That is trying to. We have no money coming into this. This is a nonprofit, so any money we get is to go to those first responders, to have that time with them, to do these events. So any help we get from anyone is huge. So that's a big thing. But also the premise of it, it's not exclusive to the firehouse. If humans would just take this we see you attitude and see the people around them, including in your own family, in your own life, don't be afraid to call someone that you know is in the ditch thinking, well, I don't have the words for them. So then call them, tell them exactly that. Hey, hello. Hey, yeah, you have been having a hard time. I have no words. I don't know what to say to you. Oh my goodness. That person on the other end is probably going to start crying just because you called them. You don't need the words. Like people often say to me, well, you're such a good speaker. Whatever. Ask my wife. Sometimes this is a curse too, because we don't get anywhere quickly, and I'm late for everything, just like I'm late again today. And that's fine. But this is actually a global thing that could change the world. And that's not for me to be, oh, pride, I want to drive a Lamborghini or something. No, I don't give a rip about that. It's a fact. I'm not wrong. This would absolutely change, especially in a digital era. You got to stop in the lineup, always going to your phone. Why don't you just try talking to people around you once in a while? Or even just look around. Stop. Every time you stop, pulling out your phone. People do that constantly, and they're checked out. Airports now, everybody's in their devices. And when I travel, I literally stare at them all with headphones on, grievously, thinking what Jesus said, it's like they're a sheep with no shepherd. But that's a painful statement he's saying. Like, what are they doing? We've been tricked. And so it's time to take that back. And we can do it by the simplest of things. So this We See You Proactive Peer Support, it is a nonprofit. We've launched it. We need all kinds of help. So we need money. We need people to come onto this, onto a board, onto a team, people that have giftings that can help. We need help really in the social media space, because I have a social media at 47 years old that is blowing up, and I'm 47 years old. I don't know what to do with 70,000 comments on a post. So there people who have gifts and skills in this, we believe, are going to come into our life here and start building this movement. And then ideally, I need other first responders to do what I do where they work, because this model isn't going to work at all if other firefighters, EMS, police, whatever, don't start enacting this themselves. This is not about me having coffee with everyone. It's about everybody having coffee with everyone.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't have to fly to BC or Nova Scotia for these coffees. There should be first responders there. So that's what we're trying to do. So a very aggressive movement to affect change. But I got really tired of, we constantly complain about what we don't have. Not enough fire trucks, not enough firefighters, not enough ambulances, not enough healthcare, not enough. And it's like, well, that's all true. But even to be fair to the government, what are they going to do? Snap their fingers and it's there tomorrow? No. So we could complain about what we don't have, or even in your own life, you can apply this. If you don't have something, well, then go deal with it so that you have it. If it's an actual need, then go get it. And if you haven't asked, I like this one, especially of God, have you ever asked for that? Then ask,
I like
right?
that.
Even if it's money. So I don't like money, but I need money to do this. So then I ask for it all the time. Give me money. I just said it. I have a GoFundMe. Please give me money. Sure, because I just told you how I'm going to use it. If you ever see me driving a Ferrari, you have every right to ask me, if I'm stewarding the money wisely. Be careful. I'm not ragging against people who own Ferraris. That's fine. But the point would be I'm not trying to do that. I just want to be able to pay for that next flight if a guy is in acute trouble towards suicide to have that coffee, which I did recently, by the way. A couple months ago, I flew west for a coffee with a guy. Literally flew in, had the coffee, flew home. And he's in deep struggle and he needed to see me. So that's what we're forming here and doing. Sky's the limit on events you could do to raise awareness for mental health. But the guts of it is me and you doing this while we work together so that when we go to something crummy, you're already doing a lot better and you trust me and we have a relationship. We shouldn't spend all day together working and we don't know anything about each other. That's crazy. I wonder how many workplaces today are like that, where cubicle over, 10 years they've worked there and they know basically nothing about that other person.
Right. Well, yeah, it's all about meeting deadlines in which nonstop.
Yeah.
Which ultimately, how much do they matter?
Yeah.
You kind of briefly mentioned, but I want to ask, when people where can they find you? Where can they find this?
Right. So right now, We See You Proactive Peer Support. We did build a YouTube channel, which is under We See You Proactive Peer Support. I think it's the whole title because we struggled to get We See You. And that's very small at this point. We're really trying to work on exactly what you're doing, a bit of a podcast style of interviews with people so that I can get some of the people I've impacted on the screen for you to see and hear their stories, because there are already a lot of them kind of waiting. So it's kind of stacking up. So we're working on how to figure out how to do that, just like you've got equipment here. So the primary right now is my Instagram, which is literally my name, Russ Reimer 5353. Russ Reimer 5353. It's just my name. I never edit a reel, so if anybody's ever, I intentionally won't watch what I just videoed until I post it. So whatever you ever get from me is what it was exactly in the moment. No lighting, no corrections in speech. So I believe that that's for a watcher. So I only do it when I feel like it's time to do it. I don't have a regular rhythm or schedule. I feel that those messages are for someone. And I have a few proofs that will come through interviews that they are for people, including one that's very dramatic on somebody maybe not taking their own life. So so really, really big things happening out of Instagram, interestingly. So that's usually a good place for people to start if they want to contact me, and then they could direct message me for more things. I think eventually it would be natural to work on a website. People have asked about merchandise. Yes, all of that will come. But again, at the end of the day, all we want with money is so that we can have what we need in order to do what we need to do. So that's why coming on here or anything else, really what I could really benefit from is more and more exposure in bigger and bigger and bigger venues. Okay. So because the more this gets noticed, the more I'll get those people out there that are moved, that have the ability to give us those needs financially and whatever. Because certainly there are people out there with money who are looking to use their money in certain ways. Maybe they don't know me yet or whatever, and this would fit perfect for where they'd love to donate it. So that's a big one, right? Because I could benefit from this being my full-time job, as well as having some staff already. So there is a lot of work here just sitting ready to go that I'm diving into in my days off constantly. So it's soon there's got to be some breakthrough on work-life balance, because I won't be able to be a career fireman in Winnipeg, an assistant chief in Steinbach, and do this. Like something's gotta give.
Yeah.
So really the Instagram would be the best place to find me for now, and then most things are hopping off of there.
Yeah. We'll link everything in the bio, whatever I can find, I will reach out.
Sure. Yeah, I'll message you.
Everybody will find it.
Yeah.
Well, let's end it off this time, and we'll have you back.
Yeah, do it.
Thank you very much,
welcome.
Russ. I really appreciate it. I even if nobody else, like, I am encouraged and blown away by your stories. So.
I'm very glad you were encouraged, because that's the big thing. Is my heart is in that, and for what you're doing here, I hope all this for you just takes off. You've clearly got a great heart, and I again, no pride to my message, but I think there's so much hope in what I've just shared to everybody.
Yeah.
So if you're going to do that and get exposure, and people are going to listen and let it actually change your lives, then what you're doing is actually affecting change in such a good way on the planet. So I hope this is just awesome for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, for all of you watching, turn off the podcast, turn off your phone, your TV, and go say hi to your neighbor and see how they're doing.
I love it.
See you next time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's brilliant.